I learned this joint freeing series from Mukunda Stiles, who developed structural yoga therapy. It's much harder than it looks, so don't be fooled by its simplicity. Be intrigued instead. Look more closely at exactly what's happening in each of your joints and enjoy this opportunity to slowly strengthen and open your range of motion. There's only 3 to 6 repetitions for each movement, so make the most of each one. We begin sitting cross-legged and are there for quite some time, so if sitting on the ground is challenging, start in a chair instead. So we're tuning into the wisdom within and without with Om Namo Gurudev Namo. If you're joining in with your voice, breathe in for the first of 3. As you inhale, press your hands out in front and open your eyes slowly and see your hands in front of you. And then as you exhale, make fists and pull your fists under, checking to see that your elbow points are facing the side edges of the mat so they're not locked. Keeping your arms long and lifted parallel to the ground. Inhale, pull your fingers back like you're pushing something away. Reach through the heels of your hands. And then exhale, pull your fists under and reach through the top side of your wrists. Use your eyes through this series to see what's happening, and then once you have a sense of what's happening, try closing your eyes for 1 or 2 of each of the exercises so that you can see internally what's happening with these joints. Not just in the wrists where you're focused now, but notice how that radiates up into the elbows and the shoulders. And taking one more here, inhaling, pulling back. Elbow points facing the side, shoulders broad, holding yourself up with your waist. Exhale, pull your fists under. This next time as you inhale, circle your fists, keeping your forearms relatively steady. So again, you may need to open your eyes if they're closed. Look to see that your fists are doing the same thing, left to right. Can you get them to mirror each other and articulate primarily at the wrists, but notice how that radiates up into the forearms? And this next time that you exhale, change the direction and see if that feels or looks any different when you go the other way. This next time that you inhale, turn your palms to face up towards the sky. This is a really good one to practice or play with if you bring your hands under a bench top or a countertop so that you can feel how your fingertips, the base of your fingers, the heels of your hands are all in the same plane. But see if you can see that by looking at them now. And then take your hands out to the sides as you inhale, and then back in towards center as you exhale. So you'll see inner and outer wrists shrinking. And notice how when you do this, the heels of your hands want to flip up out of that parallel line, that parallel level with the floor. So see if you can keep the heels of your hands level with your fingertips and only go to the point that you move side to side. Breathing. If your arms are tired, bend your elbows. Otherwise, if you're feeling strong, keep your arms long and lifted, level with your shoulders when your shoulders are broad on your back. If you haven't already lengthened your arms, lengthen them now, bringing them up level with your shoulders. Hold yourself up from your waist. And then we're going to focus into the elbows. So as you exhale, bring your fingertips or your palms to your shoulders. Elbows are level with your shoulders, so your upper arms are parallel to the floor. And then exhale and close your hands to your shoulders. But see if you can do this not from your hands moving to your shoulders, but from your biceps contracting. And then as you inhale and you open out, think of your elbow points pulling back towards your underarms so you contract your triceps. See if you can isolate these muscles. If you get to the point of feeling them shaking, great, you've got it. So see if you can isolate and focus on those muscles and take it really slow, as though you're moving through some element denser than air. You can feel the molecules of space that you're moving through. So contracting your biceps on the exhale. And then as you come in this next exhale, open your elbows out and look to see that your elbows are level with your shoulders when your shoulders are broad on your back, and either your fingertips on your shoulders or on the back of your head if they don't reach. And then see if you can pull your elbows back without dropping them down as you inhale. And then pull your elbows towards each other in front of you as you exhale. Really simple movement, but instead of leading from your elbows, see if you can lead from the muscles of your upper back contracting in, inner shoulder blades moving towards your spine as you inhale, and then your upper chest muscles, your pectoral muscles moving towards each other as you exhale. So it's the upper chest and upper back that are moving the elbows. See if you can feel that. Jaw relaxed. Shoulders broad. Use your fingertips to remind your shoulders to stay down. Notice when you take your elbows back on the inhale, how the elbows tend to want to drop and the low ribs tend to want to stick out. So use your core muscles to tuck your low ribs in so you isolate in the shoulders. Otherwise, it's getting lost in the mid-back. This next time that you open out, bring your elbows level with your shoulders and bring your hands out above your elbows. So you're making right angles with your upper arms. So wrists are long, shoulders are broad, and then see if you can tilt your forearms back so you're pivoting at your elbows. Don't force this. And then fold forward from your elbows. It's almost like you're a little marionette. Your elbows are hanging from strings. Inhale as you lift up, maybe tilt back. Feel how the bottom tips of your shoulder blades tuck in towards your upper ribs. And then as you exhale, fold forward. Feel how your shoulders roll up a little bit. And you're going to feel this right across the top of your shoulders. So keep breathing. Breathe long and deep to feed those muscles in your shoulders. And check out what's happening. Notice if your wrists are wanting to break to force you to go farther. So if you can keep the wrists long and find the action from the shoulder joints. Inhaling to lift up, maybe tilt back. Is it same left to right? If you haven't already look to see what's happening with your elbows. One of them is likely to want to go lower than the other. See if you can bring them up level with your shoulders. Try seeing it from the inside. Closing your eyes and seeing the muscles, the movements, the bones, seeing the breath fueling the action. Next time that you inhale, lift your arms up. Turn your palms to face each other. Slide your shoulders down. This is another one to tuck your low ribs in so that you can focus in the shoulders. When you find your elbows and fingers long, see if you can open your arms back without your ribs sticking out. Exhale and come down in front and up and back. So taking your arms towards each other behind you. Inhale, lift up, palms facing each other, opening back, tuck your low ribs in, keep your head level. So when your arms come down, look straight ahead. Your head's going to want to drop down. Keep your chest lifted. Inhale, lift up, maybe back. See what your shoulders will do without your low ribs sticking out. And then exhale, come around your legs, up and back, and draw your palms, your inner elbows, your shoulder blades towards each other behind you and lifting up without dropping your head or your chest down. So again, you're focusing the action in the shoulder joints. If you haven't done one of these with your eyes closed, try that. See if you can see it from the inside. This next time that you exhale and bring your arms down behind you, then release your hands to your knees. You're essentially moving into spinal flex, but very slowly, beginning from your tailbone, rolling up your spine, keeping the back of your neck open. Slide your shoulder blades down onto your back as you inhale. And as you exhale, tuck your belly towards your low back, let your head release. Doing just a few of these to feel your spine after those arm and particularly shoulder movements. Listening to your breathing, so feel free to close your eyes if that helps you tune in. This next time that you inhale, draw yourself up tall. And as you exhale, shrink your side waist to the right. So your right waist shrinking, opening the left side. Use your inhale to lengthen back up to center, and your exhale to shrink on the left side. Alternating side to side very slowly, long, deep breathing, inhaling to center, exhaling and shrinking side waist to open the other side, feeling that you're going side to side instead of twisting, and letting your hands rest on your knees or your thighs, jaw relaxed. Notice if you're lifting yourself back up to center with your head or your teeth. See if you can come from the foundation in your seat upwards, from your breath inside upwards. This next time that you go over to the left side, as you inhale and come back up to center, bring your left hand in front of you and your right hand behind you. Use your inhale to lengthen up. Use your hands on the ground to push the ground away, especially with your right hand. And as you exhale, turn towards the right, but from your belly button more than from your chin. Inhale and come back to center, and then exhale again and twist to the right. This is a subtle twist. You're not forcing it with your head or your neck or your arms, instead using your arms to help keep your spine really tall as the vertebrae get closer together when they twist. I'm doing just one more. This next time that you come back to center, take a moment to notice the effects of having gone just to the right side. Use your next exhale to set your hands for the other side. Right hand in front of you, right at your center, and left hand behind you. Push the ground away with your left hand. Inhale, lengthen up. And as you exhale, turn towards the left from your abdominal strength, drawing over, feeling how that left side is shrinking a little bit and the right side is stretching, rib cage turning, keeping your head centered with your torso and your neck and jaw relaxed. Doing as many on this side as you did on the other side. About 4 repetitions total. But see where your breath takes you. And this next time that you come back to center, rest your hands on your legs. Notice how you're feeling. Hopefully a bit more balanced now that you've done both sides. We're going to move up into an awareness of the upper portion of the spine, the neck. So as you inhale, feel the length of your spine, the lift of your sternum, and as you exhale, let your head, your right ear, release towards your right shoulder. Inhale into that open left side of your neck, letting your head roll down to center and lifting it back up by lifting your sternum up, uncurling your head. Exhale and release your head to the left. Breathe into that open right side of your neck. Let your head release to center. lifting up through center with your inhale, and exhaling and releasing through the weight of the head. Notice how your shoulders want to follow your head. Keep your waists even. As you inhale, let the breath filter up into the neck and release your head to center. At the very end of that inhale, feel how the chest lifts the head up from underneath. And then exhale and release to the other side. See if you can keep your waists even, your shoulders the same distance from the ground, so the focus is more in the neck. Letting the beginning of the inhale filter into the neck, and then roll your head down along your collarbones to center. The fullest part of that inhale, lift your head up. And as you exhale, release to the other side. We're just going side to side, ear towards shoulder in this first movement in the neck. Being mindful of any tension that creeps into the jaw or the tongue. Finishing so that you have done both sides an even amount. Finishing on the left side. And this next time that you release your head down towards center and you uncurl your head with the inhale, let the front of your neck open as your head lifts up. Let your jaw open, your mouth open. If it's not wise for you to let your head go back, even with your mouth open, just lift your nose up and keep space at the back of the neck. As you exhale, let your head release forward, chin towards your chest without collapsing your chest. Uncurl as we have been doing from the breath underneath, the sternum lifting, head coming up, throat opening on the inhale, and then on the exhale, letting your head release forward so you open the back of your neck, keeping your sternum lifted up towards your chin. So you begin to feel a stretch through the back of the neck. The slower your breath with these, the more time you have to explore, to see what you're feeling in there and to release any holding or protecting that may come into the jaw or the shoulders. The next time that you inhale, uncurl your head to center. And as you exhale, turn to look over your right shoulder, keeping your chin under your forehead so you're not twisting your right ear towards your shoulder. Use your inhale to come back to center, and as you exhale, turn to look over your left shoulder. Notice how far you go on each side. Is there a difference in the sensation of the side that you're turning away from in its stretch, and any difference in where you're looking? Can you feel that one side of your neck is tighter or more open? Very slow and steady, like you're an owl slowly looking side to side. Finishing by looking over your left shoulder. And then as you come back to center, finally unfold your legs and take them out. You may need to shake them out. If they've fallen asleep, you may need to wake them up with your hands. And as you find your legs out in front of you, bring your feet in line with your knees, in line with your front hips, your hands behind you. Push the ground away so you're not sinking into your wrists, but you're using your hands on the ground to help you lift up through your spine. And as you bring your toes to point up towards the sky, look to see that your feet are parallel. The middle of your feet are parallel to each other. Adjust your hands so that you don't have any strain in your wrists. You might need to be on your fingertips or turn your fingertips back or out to the sides. As you push the ground away with your hands or your fingers, feel how that lifts your spine up, lifts your rib cage, lifts up so that you have more room for the breath. And then look again at your feet and imagine that your breath is moving all the way down into your ankles. So that as you inhale, you draw your toes back towards you, and as you exhale, you stretch your toes forward towards the front edge of the mat. Inhale and draw back, and exhale and stretch forward, listening to the breath, noticing what it sounds like, and coordinating your breath into your feet. Inhale, draw your toes back, and exhale, stretch forward. And look at your toes and see if the big toes and the little toes are both extending forward and drawing back towards you to the same extent on each foot. Or can you sense any differences across each foot or between the 2 feet? Taking a couple more movements forward and back. Open up the front and back of your ankles, noticing how this action, even though it's focused in the ankles, radiates all the way up through your legs. If you're sinking into your hands, push the ground away. Find space for your ribs, for your lungs. This next time that you draw your toes back, bring your feet together, the inner edges of your feet together. And then think of drawing the outer edges of your feet back towards you as you inhale. And as you exhale, bring the outer edges of your feet towards each other, like your feet are praying. So it's as though you're going to plant all of the toes, left to right, against each other, like you're closing a book. Then inhale and open, drawing the outer edges of the feet back, and exhale and close. And this one is a little bit tricky. This is where you start to create pathways between the brain and the body, if they're not already there. So the trick with this is to keep your big toes pointing straight up, especially when you take your feet around towards each other. They'll tend to want to go away from you. But if you keep your feet perpendicular to the floor, then you get a better stretch in your outer ankles. So coordinating the breath, inhaling, drawing back, noticing how your knees roll in, your thighs roll in, and then exhaling and taking your feet towards each other, and noticing how that radiates up through your legs. Doing one more. And then as you finish that one, bring your feet wide enough from each other that you can make big circles with your feet without your big toes touching each other. Dropping down towards the inside so the big toes move towards each other. And just pause there for a second and see how far you drop down and whether or not there's any difference left to right in your feet. Then continuing on with big circles, opening out, and when you get to the outside, pause for a second when your little toes are dropping towards the ground, and again, see if there's any difference. If your knees are bending, press through your heels so your legs are long and that action in your ankles radiates right up to your hips. Then continue on with the circles. Inhale and exhale each circle, so big circles. Inhale and exhale. Looking to see if there's any difference left to right in your feet, if one ankle is more open, or if you can sense that that might also be related to your knee or your hip higher up. Next time that you inhale, change the direction, heading around the other way. And even though your focus is on your breath and the circling action of your feet, keep pushing the ground away with your hands, lengthening up through your spine so you're not sinking into your tailbone or into your wrists. As you bring your feet up this next time, bring your legs parallel to each other, about front hip width distance apart. And then flop your feet side to side. So the whole lengths of the legs flop side to side. And see if you can get your big toes and your little toes to flop close to the floor. So it might start to sound like windshield wipers, if you find that. But also notice any difference left to right here, if one foot flops more easily, if one side is more open. And keep the breath flowing as you're windshield wipering your legs. Bring your legs back to center. So use your hands to draw your right leg in and just bring the sole of your foot as close to your butt cheek as you can find the alignment. The arrangement of the arms can be a little bit confusing, so take your time to find this. You're going to bring your right hand lower down towards your right ankle and your left hand towards your right knee. This helps keep the knee in line with the ankle and both the ankle and the knee in line with the front hip. So once you have that hold, use the hold with your hands on your right leg to draw your spine up tall. Inhale into that length, slide your shoulder blades down behind you, push the ground away with your right foot and the whole back of your left leg, and then exhale into that. So this is going to be your exhale here. As you inhale, lengthen out through your right leg and hold behind your thigh or your knee, wherever you can reach easily, and use that hold to draw you up. So your spine stays tall throughout the movement. Exhale and draw your leg back in, checking your alignment. So you may need to take a little bit more time with the first few ones to make sure that you keep the bones in line. You're inhaling to lengthen out through your right leg. Draw your toes back to create a stretch through the back of the leg. Use your hands to draw you up tall. And exhaling to draw your leg in, and your hands again drawing you up tall, feeling that compression. This is bringing us into an awareness of the knee joint, but we're also opening out through the back of the leg and through the spine. Next time that you exhale, lengthen out through your right leg and switch sides. So remember to bring your left hand closer towards your left ankle and your right hand across your body to your left knee on the exhale. Inhaling, drawing out. And as you lengthen your left leg out, look to see that your toes remain in line with your knee and your front hip. They may want to go off to the side. The same awareness in that foot, toes, ankle, knee, front hip. As you exhale, draw yourself up. Notice how your low back wants to round on the exhale. Use your arm strength to lift your tailbone to find that lordosis in your low back as you exhale. This next time that you exhale and tuck in, we're going to transition the awareness from the knee joint into the hip joints. And this one is quite tricky. Takes a little bit of time to find, feels a little fiddly initially. You're going to turn off the side of your mat, whichever side you have room, and be aware of the surface that you're on. So you don't get rug burn or scrape across floorboards that are rough. Bring your legs out wide and just as wide as you can so that when you have your hands behind you and you're pushing the ground away, you continue to have that lift and length through the low back. You're not rounded onto your tailbone. And then look at your feet and align, just as you have been doing, align your toes with your knees, with your front hips. So if your feet are angled out, you'll notice that your pelvis is also tucked under, most likely. So you may need to bring your legs closer together, a narrower V shape, in order to find where you have toes pointing straight up, knees pointing straight up, and you're sitting on your sits bones instead of your tailbone. Once you find that alignment, we're going to start with the right leg and roll the whole length of the leg in. The temptation here is just to roll at the ankle, but tilt over to the left side, push with your hands. You may even have to get that right butt cheek up off the ground so that you can roll the whole length of your leg in. And then as you exhale next, drag that leg over towards the left leg. When you get there, turn the whole length of your leg out so your little toe side of your foot is towards the floor, and inhale and open. And continue with this. Exhale, turn the big toe side of your foot towards the floor and roll the whole length of your leg towards the floor as you take it towards the left leg. And then inhale and open outwards, opening the whole length of the leg out. So where you'll feel this is right at the hip joint. As you start to get stronger and stronger, you might find your leg doesn't even need to be on the ground, and you have less shifting from hip to move the leg. But initially, lean into each butt cheek in order to not compromise what's happening in the alignment of the leg joints. Take your time with this, breathe into it, and the next time that you open your right leg out, switch over to the left side. So again, feel free to lean as much as you need to into your right hip in order to rotate the inner edge of that left leg, big toe side of your foot, towards the floor. Imagine that you're running your foot along a curved wall and you're keeping the big toe ball, little toe ball, inner heel and outer heel against that wall. So keeping your foot strong. Watch your foot. Notice what you're doing. Once you have a sense of what I'm doing, see what's happening in your body. And also notice any difference left to right in the ease of this, or how closely your foot will roll towards the floor on each side. You get a sense then of any differences in the tightnesses of your hips. So this next time that you exhale and you rotate your left leg in towards your right leg, then bring yourself back onto the mat. Take your time to gather your legs back up. And as you come back up onto the mat, come into table pose, but with your knees together. Take a breath in, shoulders broad on your back. And as you exhale, take your hips over towards the right side and your feet towards the left side, and find where you feel a stretch on your outer hip and outer waist. You may want to push a little bit with your right hand so you don't fall. Use your next inhale to come back to center, and as you exhale, switch sides, hips to the left, feet to the right. And think of taking that outer hip, that left hip, a little farther back towards the back edge of the mat so that you create that stretch on your outer hip and waist. Using your breath to move from side to side. So you're inhaling at center and exhaling and taking your hips out to the side, feet in the opposite direction. If you're not feeling the stretch in your outer hip, think of your sits bones like two eyes facing off the back edge of the mat instead of swiveling towards the side edge of the mat. So you're keeping your hips squared with the back edge of the mat. That should help you find it. Doing one more on each side. Slow breath. Use your exhale to press out tension in your outer hip and waist. When you inhale back to center from that left side, reset your knees underneath your front hips. So you're coming into table. And bringing yourself right into cat and cow. But since we're only doing a few repetitions of this, see if you can find the precision of what you're doing, especially if you've done this movement quite a bit before. Inhale to open the front body, allowing gravity to work for you here. Torso dropping down, slide your shoulder blades down and in, behind your heart, away from your neck. Use the ground as you exhale, push the ground away with your hands and your shins and your feet, arching your back up. Roll from your tailbone up to your head in each movement. The next time that you inhale, going to take that same spinal movement and go side to side. So as you exhale, shrink your right shoulder towards your right hip, look over your right shoulder. As you inhale, come back to center. Exhale to the left, drawing your hip up, your shoulder down, your shrinking side waist. As you exhale, shrink your right shoulder towards your right hip, look over your right shoulder. As you inhale, come back to center. Two more. This next time that you exhale on the left side, as you inhale and come back to center, lift your wrists and your thumbs so that you're stretching from the tips of the fingers down through the lengths of the fingers. And if that's really intense, you're not able to lift your thumbs off the ground, then keep one hand on the ground and focus on the other one so you can determine the weight, the stretch. So once you have your fingers spread out wide from each other, so you have triangles of color between your fingers, and then stretch down long into the mat. When you bring your palms down, check that your wrists are under broad shoulders, so that when you slide your shoulders back onto your back, your arms, your upper arms, are alongside your upper ribs, and you can draw your upper chest forward a little bit. Stretch your right leg back behind you, and reach your toes away from your head. And then as you exhale, tuck your right knee in towards your head. So the more you push the ground away with your left shin and the base of your fingers, the more room you have to tuck your knee in underneath. Go back and forth between those two and see if you can feel how you're just extending what you were doing in cat and cow into your leg. The next time you exhale, release your right knee and switch to your left. See if you can make a smooth transition, continuing with the breath as you switch over to the left leg. Letting your shoulders open off your back as you exhale and arch your back up, and then sliding your shoulder blades down and in, away from your neck, so they help to open the heart forward as you inhale. Noticing if there's any difference on this left side, if your head and knee connect a little more easily, or if it feels about the same as the right. This next time that you exhale on the left side, as you inhale and come back to center, lengthen out through your right leg. Find a point to focus on the ground. Push the ground away with your right hand and your left shin, and then lift your left hand up off the ground. So opposite hand to the leg that's lifted. And as you extend out through that left arm, keep your shoulders broad on your back, your neck space clear. And feel, if you can, a long line from your left fingertips through your left arm and then along your spine and out through the length of your right leg. Next time you exhale, release back to table. If you tend to feel your wrists, stretch through your fingers. Take a breath or two in cat and cow, arching up through your back, opening through your torso, and then continuing, extending that motion of cat and cow into pranayapana. So next time you inhale and you open your front body, lengthen out through your left leg. And as you exhale, push the ground away and tuck your left knee in towards your head. With your next inhale, as you lengthen your left leg, tuck your low belly in and up so you support your low back. Focus your eyes to help your balance. Push the ground away with your right shin, your left hand, and as you're ready, lift your right arm. Play with balancing and also lengthening without disintegrating, keeping your shoulders broad on your back, low back long. Give that one more inhale, and then as you exhale, release back to center with table. Bring your knees together again for cat presses. So bringing your wrists under broad shoulders, spread your fingers out, plant the base of your fingers, so you may have to lift your wrists to get that connection, and then bring them back down if you did. And then bend your elbows just slightly and tuck them in so that the points of your elbows point towards your thighs instead of off the sides of the mat. Bring your shoulder blades onto your back if they're not already. Lift your belly up into your low back. You can feel your tailbone pointing away from your head, and your low back is long and supported. So as you exhale, bend your elbows to roll across the front of your knees and come forward as though you're going to dive off the front edge of the mat, just coming to the point where you can feel your low back doesn't sag, your shoulders are broad, your elbows are tucked in, and then inhale and come back up. Use your inhale to inflate you, and then your exhale to come forward to get closer to the ground. You're coming down, but not between the hands. It's more about coming forward over your hands, keeping the elbows tucked in so you can feel your upper arms right next to your upper ribs. Moving at your pace of breathing. The slower you go with this, the more strength you're developing in the muscles of your body, and you're also increasing your ability in your breathing practice, your pranayama. keeping your jaw relaxed. It doesn't matter how far you go. What matters is that you go to the point where you're strongest, where you have integrity. Everything's integrated together. Otherwise, if you're going past that, then you're strengthening in your falling apart place. So focus on strengthening where you're strong instead. This next time that you get to your lowest place, hold. Hold the posture and refine it, but don't hold your breath. So coming forward and down by bending your elbows as though you're leaving your hips behind. Aim your tailbone back, lift your belly up, shoulders on your back, elbows tucked in, breathing steadily. Use your next inhale to come up. And as you lift up, release your feet, keep your hips above your knees, and walk your hands out in front. So we're going to come into puppy dog stretch and open out the triceps and the shoulders. Most likely your hands are going to come off the front edge of the mat, walking your arms out long in front. This is essentially the upper body portion of down dog with the knees on the ground. So you might need a little bit more space between your knees, so you feel your knees are right under your front hips, about fist width apart. Pressing your shins down so you have a good base. Keep your hips right above your knees or shift back just slightly if that's too much on your kneecaps. And then as you walk your arms out long in front of you, bring your forehead to rest on the ground. When you find where you can rest your forehead on the ground, so it might mean that you have to shift your hips back. If your forehead is really far from the ground, it might be that your shoulders are quite tight. But when you adjust and find where you can rest your forehead on the ground, if your elbows have dropped to the ground, push the ground away with your hands, lengthen your elbows, and feel or imagine long lines from the palm of each hand, through each arm, through the side waist, right to the sits bones. It's really easy here for the belly to drop down, the low back to sag. So keep that little lift in your belly that you had in the cat presses. So your tail is pointing back away from your head. And instead of sagging your low back, drop your chest and your throat and your underarms down towards the ground until you feel the backs of your shoulders, tops of your shoulders stretching. And you can breathe. So it may be that your elbows get closer to the ground, but it's not because they're bending. It's because your shoulders are opening. If you're flexible here and you have your elbows long but they're close to the ground and you want to deepen the stretch, lift your head. Use your next exhale to push the ground away with your hands. Walk your hips all the way back over your heels so you're coming into extended child. Find where your long arms help you tuck in and your hips are back over your heels and your forehead is resting on the ground again. Then release yourself forward and long onto the mat, coming onto your back for Shavasana, corpse pose. Finding where your long lines are, stretch the heels of your feet away from your head. And then let your feet release away from each other. Stretch the fingers of your hands away from you, turning your palms to face upwards so that your shoulder blades slide broadly under your back so you don't feel cramped in the upper back. And finding where you can rest your head, rest your body. Allow yourself to settle into spaciousness and stillness and silence for a few moments. After a few moments, I'll bring you back out with my voice. Begin to move your body to lengthen, wiggle, stretch, tuck, however works best for you to transition consciously and easily out of corpse pose. And to make your way up to sitting. Bringing your arms up, bring your palms together, gather up whatever sort of energy you'd like to carry with you off the mat. Acknowledging yourself in your practice. If you're practicing with anyone else, acknowledging them as well. Namaste.